Welcome to the Inspire Health Podcast. Your life is about to get a whole lot better. Have you ever felt like you tried everything and yet still couldn't find the answers or the solutions that you were seeking? Whether you're dealing with chronic illness, physical or emotional pain, I want you to know that your body is the most sophisticated machine on planet Earth. Your body holds unfathomable wisdom. Trust in it and learn from it. Know that there are answers and there are solutions to your specific health challenges. And we will be uncovering all of them here on the Inspire Health Podcast. I'm so excited to be a part of your healing journey. Your transformation starts now. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Inspire Health Podcast. Today's guest is Dr. Todd Sinett. Dr. Todd is a leading authority on back pain. And by finding and treating the root cause of pain and not just the symptoms, Dr. Sinett eliminates pain. His treatment includes an assessment of the whole body structure, what you're eating, and how you manage stress. Dr. Sinett is the founder of the multi-specialty health center True Whole Care, and he's the author of 4 books and the inventor of the Back Bridge that has sold over 75,000 units worldwide. He is on a mission to help people find the solution to their back pain and sustain healthy bodies and happy lives. Dr. Sinett has served as a clinical expert for many television programs, including Barbara Walters' The View, Fox MD, The Good Day New York with Donna Hanover. And today we are going to talk to Dr. Sinett about his most recent book entitled The Good Shit. Dr. Todd, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's a pleasure. So you got to break down for me, how does a doctor of chiropractic move from talking about back pain to then writing a book all about our bowel movements?
Yes, that's a great question. Well, I mean, I consider myself an expert in this topic. I've been doing it for 50 years, so that's a bit of an expert. But I found actually my father went through a very traumatic experience. He was a chiropractor, and one day he bent down to pick up a tennis ball, and his back went out. And for 9 months, he was completely bedridden, and no one can help him. They recommended exploratory surgery for him. Because again, no one can help him, including chiropractic, and he was a chiropractor. And the doctor actually, there was one doctor who looked at my father, and we really asked some very different questions. So he was asking my father questions, well, why are you suffering from back pain? He seems so healthy, he seems so fit. So he's asking my father some digestive or dietary questions. And back in that day, as long as you were thin, you were healthy, so you could eat whatever you wanted. So my dad's diet was filled with sugar. The sugar upset his stomach. The upset stomach created a lot of gas, inflammation, irritation, which then caused the spasms in his back. So back in 1975, my dad was blown away that the linkage between your diet and your back pain. So he changed his life and he changed his approach. And health is the balance of your structural system, your emotional system, and your digestive system and your nutritional system. So I'm seeing a lot of back pain caused by constipation. I'm seeing a lot of back pain caused by diarrhea, by different diets. So it really wasn't that big of a stretch, because a lot of times back pain is really just a symptom of an imbalance in health. So I got the opportunity to write the book called The Good Shit. And I think it's really, it's a fun title. I think it's a really important book, and we don't take ourselves too seriously, but the messaging is very, very serious in it.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. I went through it and it breaks down a lot of key things that I want to talk to you about, because it's like you said, pain is often a symptom of a lot of other underlying factors. So I mean, we see that in clinic all the time too. And a lot of times people just want to get their pain fixed. But when you start to talk to them about maybe other things that might be playing on, like emotions or diet's such a fundamental one for so many things. It's almost like, for many times I think, just clean up some stuff around diet first and then see what, the quote unquote new normal is when you do that for a while, and just see where you actually are. I mean, sometimes all these array of things start to disappear just by making that one correction. Yeah. So out of the number of different biomarkers that you could have chosen, what makes our shit such a good biomarker of our overall health?
Yeah, I mean, our bowel movements are just the result of so many different processes in the body that if something's out of whack, your body and your bowel movement is going to tell you. So, my personal story is that I was always eating pretty healthy, and I decided for New Year's I was going to go on a health kick. So every day for a week or 10 days, I had oatmeal for breakfast. I had a salad for lunch and lean proteins fish or lean proteins for dinner. And within 5 days, everything changed, right? My energy changed. My muscular tension changed. They all got worse, right? Which is the exact opposite what I was expecting, was the exact opposite of everything I was expecting. And what happened is that when I went back to my diet where I was eating fairly healthy, I was having some eggs, I was having peanut butter and whole grain bread, I was having a turkey sandwich, I felt much better. And I couldn't figure out why that was. It just didn't make any sense to me. And then I was always asking the question, well, how do you figure out what the right diet is? So every patient who I'm seeing, we're trying to figure out what the right diet is. And I didn't even know what it was for me either, right? Because the only consensus when it comes to diet is there's no consensus. So for every diet that's out there, there's a complete equal and opposite diet that's saying the same exact things, right? But you'd think that there would be some scientific study that they figure out what is the right diet. And the answer is there is no one right diet. There is no answer. We've been looking for this answer the whole time, and the answer is there is no answer. Even though all these diets keep claiming the same success, right? How can a vegetarian diet, a proponent, or someone who is really strong philosophically about the vegetarian diet, say this is the diet, look at all this stuff. They even make movies about how important a vegetarian diet is, right? And then you have somebody else, same tout, same success, same story, same testimonials, complete opposite. They do a paleo diet. Makes no sense. Mm-hmm. And the only consensus is there is no consensus, right? So how do you figure out what's the right diet? And the question is not what's the right diet. The question is what's the right diet for you? Because if everyone ate vegetarian, we're going to have a lot of sick people. If everyone ate paleo, we're going to have a lot of sick people. So what may be right for some is not going to be right for others. So for a vegetarian, that could be the right thing. And for a paleo person, that could be the right thing as well. It's comical because we're told to balance our blood sugar, eat small meals throughout the day. Then we're told to do intermittent fasting. We're told to stay away from dairy, have high fats, have low fats, high calorie, low calorie. It's infuriating.
Yeah. Well, I think the key point you said is that it's individual. And I think anybody that's been a clinician for long enough that realizes that no one thing works for everybody as much as you want it to, or as much as even the literature tells you how good something is. It's very variable from person to person. And yeah. I know even when I check markers, I would have patients coming in that would, a husband and a wife that would both be eating the exact same diet. So for a while I was working with a big, large group with the yoga community, and see a lot of vegetarians and vegans. I would see some of them would come in and, one partner might be actually thriving on it and really doing well, and the other one's totally crashing and burning. And then when we actually assess it, you actually maybe take a look at some inflammation markers and some other things around that just to see if it's working for them or not. And one actually is doing really well and one's doing really, really badly. And it just goes back to, why is that one person that diet works for them? It all has to do with our individuality and how well our digestive tract is working for what we're consuming. So
exactly.
What people need to get back to, I think, which you also are a proponent of in your book, is really starting to pay attention to how that diet is actually making you feel. And then you're looking at sort of bowel movements as being a big indicator of whether or not we're actually doing something that's healthy for us. So I guess the big question would be then, what is a healthy bowel movement supposed to look like? Because the reality is a lot of people are walking around and they think that what is going on is normal because that's just what they're used to. And they might be going several days without a bowel movement, or they have generally always broken up loose stool all the time, or they're constipated regularly. So what would a healthy digestive tract and bowel movement supposed to kind of be like?
Yeah, the point that I want to make is when I was trying to figure out what the right diet for me was, I came inadvertently to the conclusion that when I was feeling my best, when I was eating the foods that made me feel my best, that's when my bowel movements were the best. When I wasn't eating right, for me, even if it was super healthy or whatever it is, I was constipated, I had diarrhea, I was gassy, I was bloating. So that became the marker that really told me how am I eating and what's working right. So to finally answer your question, is a bowel movement should really look like a piece of sausage. It should be well formed. It should be light color and light brown color, and it should come out pretty easy. And the frequency, a lot of people ask frequency, and the question is really, or the answer is really what's right for you. So it could be that every couple days is kind of normal for you, or it could be a couple times a day. It's really about the ease that you're passing your bowel movements and how it's coming out. If it's coming out hardened in pieces, you're constipated, your stool's sticking around too long, and your body's getting a lot of toxicity and inflammation, irritation. And if it's coming out in pieces, or if it's loose, you're having a lot more diarrhea, and your transit time's too quick. Your body's not properly digesting the proper nutrients, or you're taking in foods that your body can't handle and digest, and you're getting rid of it too quick. So you want to have that balance. I thought about calling the book the homeostatic diet, or the there's a medical term, and it's about homeostasis, right? And the body always wants homeostasis. And homeostasis basically means balance, or in the middle. Too much or too little of one thing is no good. And what's happening in our diets, where we're not using that homeostatic principle. We're using principles where we think something is right, or we're finding something that's right, and we're going to extremes where our bodies are not in balance. And our body's speaking, right? Our body's speaking, and I think we really need to listen to it. How do you know if you're hydrated? Very simple. You look at the coloration of your pee. If it's clear, you have enough water, and if it's yellow, you're dehydrated. Well, how do you know if you're eating and excreting properly? A good, healthy bowel movement's going to tell you that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of times I think we make it more complex than it needs to be. And even in this world of functional medicine, I mean, I like functional medicine, but some of the stuff that I'm not such a fan of with functional medicine is it gets to go down sometimes a bit of a rabbit hole of tons and tons of testing, and we just stop paying attention to what we actually are feeling, and real basic ones like, what's the color of your urine? What's your bowel movements like? What's your energy level? How's your sleep? Like, just some really good fundamentals that most of the time, if those things get cleaned up, so much stuff starts to get better.
I mean, the body is literally speaking a language, right? Just even balancing something as simple as your temperature, right? So if you're cold, your body will shiver. If you're hot, your body will perspire. And if not, your body will tell you messages. If you're hot, it'll basically send you signals that you're thirsty, or to put on a sweatshirt or take off a sweatshirt. Your body's continually giving you these answers, and we're continually ignoring it. So one of the most important things is when you're going to the bathroom is check out your shit. See how you did and see what it looks like to tell you where you are.
Yeah. And then you get a bit of a baseline. Like, if people are checking that on a regular, like one of the forms that we give everybody when they're going through is just a diet diary. So you get to see, what are you eating, what's your energy, what's your mood like, any symptoms, and then number of bowel movements, and what was it like. So it's like, just start paying attention to it, because then you can track back and go, well, what the hell happened? Why all of a sudden it's like, I've got diarrhea, what went on? Check back and sort of see what went on over those last 24 hours. And if you track it enough, things start to make sense to you, and you bring awareness to these things.
Yeah. I mean, I applied what I call the scientific method to this whole thing. And, our food choices are important. They're vitally important to us, but it's so overblown, right? So in my opinion, the food choices, what diet you choose, that's the theory, or that's the hypothesis, right? That's what you think is right for you. But your bowel movements are the conclusion of the result, which tells you the answer. So you're better off, I say this whole thing is bass-ackwards. You're better off finding out what the result is, or what the conclusion is, and then go with the theory after. Not do it the other way around. Yeah,
exactly. So given that there's no real kind of perfect diet for anybody, when, say, someone comes in and they're just whatever they're taking in, whatever they're doing, whether it's a standard American diet or whatever, but bottom line is, like, they've got back pain, or they've got digestive issues, they're constipated, or they got diarrhea, where's their first step?
The first step is awareness, and I really like to do a 7-day diet sheet, right? We want to basically see where they're at, right? Are they someone who's having the typical American or Canadian diet? I don't know. Are they
typical North American diet? Yeah.
All right, that's true. Thank you. are they having, are they having the coffee, the bagel, the muffin, the pasta, the sandwich, the sodas, the sugary drinks? Are they having the fitness diet where they're having protein shakes, protein bars, green drinks? Are they having lots of sugar, caffeine, alcohol? Are they having too much roughage? Are they having tons of dairy? Are they having, I think is a big thing is, are they having a lot of carbonated beverages? A lot of people are stopped drinking water, having fizzy waters or flavored waters, but the carbonation creates a lot of gas. So I'm looking for repeatable patterns.
Mhm.
And once we could see these repeatable patterns, we want to take a look if those repeatable patterns are really creating a problem for that person, and then bring them back into some kind of middle. So if they're having too much sugar, caffeine, and alcohol, we want to stop that. If they're having too much roughage or too much salad or things that are not easily digestible, we want to stop that as well. And then we see what happens, right?
Mhm.
It should all come together, so to speak.
Yeah, a little bit of trial and error, but first part
Yeah.
is just to know where you start, where
Yeah.
you're at, where you are.
I mean, I think the biggest problem is our dogma against it. And I always ask a very interesting question, which always elicits kind of a funny response. And I ask, what's healthier, salmon or a donut? And everyone says salmon, right? I understand that. It's a healthy fish, got a lot of important nutrients. But that's not always true. I wouldn't say salmon is healthier than donut because my niece Casey is severely allergic to fish. And if she had the salmon, it could kill her and send her to the hospital. But if she has a donut, she's happy, she enjoys it, and it's got some egg in it. So it's really about what's healthy for you.
Mhm.
So I think that's just a really important point.
Yeah, I think it's good. I just also think it's so important to get people to start listening to that inner guidance more so than constantly getting something that they want to hear externally. It's like
Mhm.
just start to pay attention again. I feel like big thing I talk about a lot of times is just I think people have gotten really disconnected from their bodies, and a lot of these are really good fundamentals to just get people to start to pay attention.
Yeah, I mean, you throw out, like, we're always looking for the enemy, right? Is it the calories? Is it the carbs? Is it the red meat? Is it the fat? All these things, for certain people, you say these words and they literally have a visceral reaction to it. But we have to get rid of that dogma and really listen to our bodies. I mean, we
Mhm.
have our own built-in detoxification system. People ask me, do I need to go on a detox program? I'm like, well, your body has a detox system. It's called your shit. And we want to pay attention to it. If we get your shit right, we got your detox system working right. So
Yeah, it's a good tell.
yeah, exactly.
You had in your book that I really like too. You talked about an example tying with emotional eating, and I'd like to talk a little bit about that because this
Yeah.
is sort of like a two-way street. So it's like where emotions can be beneficial in when you're eating and help with digestion and whatnot, and also when we get caught up in emotional eating patterns and how that affects things. I remember you in your book you were talking about birthday cake at one point, and I completely agree when you're saying that. And I was wondering maybe you can share your thoughts around that.
Yeah, a lot of people ask me, the superfood, right? What's the superfood, right? So maybe it was kale. Everyone's always looking at quinoa. Everyone's looking for the superfood. My answer is birthday cake. And everyone looks at me like I'm crazy. And there is no such thing as really superfood. And why do I choose birthday cake is my answer to that question. And my answer is that because when you have food, you should be doing it with joy. Or when you're eating food, there's a complete different digestive process if you're eating your food with joy or if you're eating your food with guilt. So if you're having a hot fudge sundae when you're depressed, your body biochemically digests it completely differently than if you're having that hot fudge sundae when you're celebrating. People can go on vacation, go wildly off their diet and feel wonderful. They have that same diet in their normal working environment and they feel terrible. So birthday cake just represents a time of happiness. They survive the 365 days a year. You have your loved ones around you, and they're giving you gifts and presents. So your immune system is going to be functioning best while having birthday cake.
Yeah. Well, and you made a great point there around because I see this all the time and I have the same conversation with people, always asking, well, how do you do when you go away on vacation? How does
Yeah,
your body function? Sort of
right.
what's your energy like? Do you wake up feeling fatigued or do you wake up kind of ready to start the day? What's your digestion like? Do you find that the same problems with foods that happen when you're on vacation versus when you're not? And I mean, sometimes there are. Some people have like a true sensitivity. They have to be careful
Of
around
course.
stuff. But I mean, a lot of the times they go away and it's like, no, I could eat pasta and I could eat some of these different things that, cause a lot of discomfort for them when they're back here and they're in their regular world. And it sort of talks back to how our emotions and our state of stress impact so many things. So maybe you can outline a little bit about the impacts of emotions and stress and how that plays into.
I would love it. I think what happens is a lot of times when they're researching diets, right, they go to different cultures and they study longevity and they try and find out what culture or what diet is really the best. So they found out the Mediterranean diet was great. They found out the French diet was great. And they both showed longevity, right? And the interesting thing is the French diet is loaded with cheese and fats and red wine, and the Mediterranean diet is filled with fish, oils, tomatoes. So it's a different diet, but they both show the same response. And I think the real answer is that it's around the culture and the emotions around foods. So, there's a big difference if you're eating a burger in a car or if you're sitting at lunch with family around you having a leisurely meal. There's a big difference if you're enjoying a bowl of pasta the size in Italy where they eat it on an appetizer portion size, or having a never-ending pasta bowl at the spaghetti garden or whatever it is.
Mhm.
So, I think so much about the culture and our approach to eating is almost, I don't know if it's equal or more important or just as important as the actual food choices themselves.
Mhm.
So I really urge people that if you're having a hot fudge sundae, enjoy that hot fudge sundae and don't have it all the time, but really enjoy it. And don't have this guilt around eating these particular foods because everything's meant to be enjoyed. And again, you can almost take any food or food that we're trying to stay away from, but entire cultures were built on this food. So, cultures are built on corn, potatoes, flour, breads, everything that we think we should be avoiding, but entire cultures are built on that and show long-term longevity. So I really think the emotions play a huge part in this.
Yeah, I think I really think that's kind of what trumps almost everything in a lot of ways because it's so systemic. It's like when
Yep.
something affects your stress levels or when you're working with certain undigested emotions, literally, they will affect everything and you will create different chemicals, you create neuropeptides, those things get lodged in the body in different ways and they wreak havoc on a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So I think that's such an important piece. When you talked a little bit about emotional eating, for people
Mm-hmm.
that do get caught up with patterns in emotional eating, where are some strategies to even start to work with that? Because I know sometimes people have an idea of what's affecting them, but
Yeah.
they're also very addicted to that and especially when the emotions kick in, that's their go-to. So what suggestions do you have for people, or where do you start with people that are going through a lot of emotional eating issues?
Yeah, I mean, that's a real good, interesting question. In our office, we do something called biofeedback, where we'll literally measure people's stress reactions. When we hooked up to monitors, we measure their stress reactions. And then we do some meditative breathing. We literally teach them to respond to their stress and tension differently. I think breathing is really important. I think counseling for people who need counseling. There was an interesting study just on back pain, and they found that Stanford University found that emotion stress was the number one factor for back pain. And then there was another study and found that antidepressants work better than anti-inflammatories for treating back pain. And that makes sense because, again, emotions are driving the bus. So you want to do everything we can to cut down on that emotional response. So speak with a professional because you want to chip away at this. And I always say that your stress doesn't have to change, but how your body responds to it can change, right?
Mhm.
So if you're someone who's having lots of sugar, caffeine, and alcohol, your body is going to be revving and your response to your stress is going to be very different than if your body's having not those foods. So it's really very much intermingled. So it's really important.
What are some of the main indicators that someone is not having a proper healthy bowel movement? So outside of just maybe what's going on with how regular or what it feels like, what are some of the hidden things that people don't always think about that can be related to this?
Yeah. So the again, I can't urge people enough to, when they have a bowel movement, don't waste the opportunity to check out their shit. Okay. So there's something called a Bristol stool chart, which is in my book, and it basically gives you pictures of what your stool should look like. But yes, it should look like a sausage. It shouldn't come out in 100 different pieces. But the color should be light brown. But a lot of times the shape is very, very important. If it's kind of coming out very thin or pencil thin, that could be an indication that you have a polyp or some kind of blockage, which is basically forcing the tube to come out thinner. The color is very, very important. So if it's very dark, it basically means that you're having too much salt and not enough fruit and vegetables. If it's coming out green, you're having too many fruits and vegetables. If it's coming out black, it could be the sign of some bleeding in the upper GI. If it's bloody, it could be really a sign of hemorrhoids or Crohn's or colitis or colon cancer, unfortunately. So you have to pay attention to this. It's just super, super important. The shape and the colors are going to tell you everything.
Mm-hmm. Well, in your book, you've got a good breakdown where you kind of go through a bunch of the different possibilities that things can look like, and then a bit of an explanation as to what that can be. Because it comes up a lot, and people's idea of normal is very different because it's more like what they're familiar with is not necessarily optimal anymore.
Right. What's common for them is not normal.
Yeah. And that kind of goes in lots of areas of life, but definitely tied with your bowel movements. So one of the ones too, I remember even going away, we were in Costa Rica a while back, and my 3-year-old at the time she got diarrhea, and she's like, Daddy, why is my poop green? And it was like bright green. And I hadn't seen poop quite that bright green before, but that's just one for parents that don't to freak out too much with that was because it was moving so fast that the bile was not getting a chance to kind of mix properly. So then that'll actually make it quite green. And as soon as things sort of slowed down, everything went back to normal again. It's like always look at yours and look at your kids' poop too. Don't just trust what they tell you, because it does tell you a lot of information.
Yeah.
Also, what are some of the other symptoms that someone could experience if they are having bowel movements that are not working so well, or if they've got some digestive issues? So you had talked before a little bit about back pain related to gas.
Yeah.
What are some other symptoms that can be related to these things that people just might not think of?
Puffiness, sluggishness, fatigue, lack of mental clarity. It's basically if you're not emptying out properly, your body, the toxicity in your body is rising. So your skin can break out. You can have a lot of gas and bloating, passing a lot of gas. That's foul smelling, pressure. It's just, these are not just laughable little things, but if you compound this over time, it can really create some serious health issues. In my book, we have an entire chapter where I interview a colorectal surgeon and the importance of getting colonoscopies, because colon cancer is really a preventable cancer, and it's really all about getting checked. So the colon cancer surgeon basically, he had basically said 3 hours of diarrhea, right, which is the diarrhea you would have by having a prep for this. He's like the colonoscopy test is painless. You're sleeping through it. So 3 hours of diarrhea can literally change or save your life. Why wouldn't you do it? So
I know it's an interesting one with the world of preventative medical testing and stuff. I did an interview a while back with, I'll send you a copy of his book because I think you'll really like it. But Dr. Eric Rifkin, he wrote a book called The Illusion of Certainty, and real fascinating. It blew my mind. I literally was reading this book, and as I'm reading it, I'm kind of like, what the hell? My wife's asked me what I'm reading, because it was just, everything was just so astonishing. But he looked at a lot of the different preventative testing that we do, and he was looking at the numbers as a difference from a relative risk versus an absolute risk reduction, and sort of looking, and they actually astonishingly look a lot different than we would think they would look sometimes. So I'll pass it along so you can take a look. I'd love to hear your feedback on it too. But it's one of those things where too, if there's stuff going on that you're not too sure about, or you've got questions, go see someone that can help you kind of figure it out, because poop is a really easy one to watch, and it's an easy one to really get figured out fairly quickly. And you just need to talk to people about it. Don't sort of, it's a lot of times people hate talking about their their shit, but for the most part, it's like most people that actually do talk about it, it's not a big deal, and it's really quite a comfortable thing. So
The only other point that I think I haven't reached is it's really important on the quality of your ingredients, right? So there's you can have a pizza, right? So there's a big difference of having a pizza that's handmade, fresh tomato sauce, fresh mozzarella cheese, as opposed to a chain Pizza Hut double cheese stuffed crust pepperoni pizza. And there's a big difference of having a slice of it or having 6 slices of it or 4 slices of it. So you really want to have good, healthy ingredients, but you want to enjoy your food.
yeah, well, that actually brings me to one other question I was going to ask you about that with related to sort of foods and diets. Are there any foods that you generally look at and kind of go, I don't know if I'd really recommend that much for anybody? Or is it sort of like everything kind of in moderation as long as you figure out what works for you and how
I,
that's going to fit?
Yeah, I mean, I'm never going to sit there and tell you that a Twinkie is a healthy food item, right? But going through the research, I compared lettuce to Doritos, and again, I'm not sitting there telling you Doritos are a healthy food item, but the damage or the health risks or people have gotten sick or E. coli from produce or from lettuce is immediately much larger than it was for Doritos. Yes, Doritos compounded over time can lead to a lot of problems, but I really think that every food has a lot of benefits and qualities to it as long as you're not overdoing it, having it too frequently, having too much, and you're listening to your body. Because if you're lactose intolerant, you want to be staying away from dairy. If body can't handle gluten, you shouldn't be having gluten, but you want to really pay attention to your unique digestive process.
Yeah. What I like about your message is I think sometimes, well, I think a lot of times people get to the point with their diet that they're actually just stressing themselves out with their diet, and there becomes a ton of judgment around what's good, what's bad, and if you start to have anything outside, you're actually creating a stress response because you're so worried about having something that's outside of so what I like about it is it's like you don't want to be moving around this world in your little bubble and have to take that with you everywhere you go. Like the idea is to build a bigger life
Uh-huh.
that's more expansive and that you've got some resilience and you're listening to your body so you know what works and what doesn't work for you.
Yeah, I mean, I have so many patients who will come in who are suffering terribly, and they go under the assumption that they're allergic to gluten. And we move it around, we do some tests, and we find out that they're not allergic to gluten. Or, just the food, white rice, right? If you mention white rice, so many people are like, I got to stay away from white rice. Entire populations, white rice is a complete staple. So, we got to broaden our horizons. We got to dial back the emotions. We got to lessen our portion sizes, be more open, try many different things, and enjoy our food and pay attention to our shit. We got to see what's going on with our body.
100% I agree with you. I think paying attention to what's going on in us is probably one of the most important things we can do at this point anyways. All right, Dr. Todd, any last words on anything as far as where can people learn more about the work you did? I want to cycle back with you at another time because you've done a lot of work specifically around back pain and stuff, and I'd like to pick your brain on all of that. So I think we're going to be putting a series together on chronic pain, and I'll bring you back and we'll
All right.
narrow that down too.
Thank you.
We'll dig deeper into that part of it. But yeah, as far as where can I send people to learn more about the work you're doing? You've got several books. What are the names of the different books that you've got again?
So I have a book called 3 Weeks to a Better Back. And that book is basically a self-diagnosis, self-treatment, back pain kind of solution. If you need some additional help, it'll tell you where to go. But that's kind of my back pain sufferers kind of Bible. I did a book called The Ultimate Back Bridge Stretch Book. And that is, I created a product called Back Bridge, and it's designed to realign our posture. We're also forward hunched. So I designed a product that will realign our posture, and then I did a whole stretch book around that. I recently, this past year, I released a book called Sit-Ups Are Stupid and Crunches Are Crap. And
Amen.
These are exercises that no one should ever do. And the simple fact is our body is completely hunched forward. So the last thing you want to do is exercises that hunch you forward. So the first part of the book is convincing the reader why you should never do them. The second part of the book is how to get the flat, toned ab and core that you always wanted. I did a book called The Back Pain Relief Diet, and that's basically an entire book dedicated to the correlation between your diet and back pain, and basically how to solve that. And I think that's the most missed portion of diagnosing and treating back pain. So I would urge anyone who's suffering from back pain, and before they undergo any invasive treatments, is to make sure that your diet is not the cause of your back pain. So in the book, we have a whole bunch of different diets to figure out what the right diet is for them to make sure that they rid themselves of back pain. And then, lastly, this book's coming out, and that's called The Good Shit. And thank you for allowing me to be on here. So if you want to learn a little bit about me, it's drsinett.com. So it's Dr. Sinett. And then all of my stuff is really on Amazon or through my website.
Super. I'll put all the links to all of that in the show notes so people will be able to access that and click right to it. And that was great. We will touch base in the future though, so we'll hit it up again when we talk about back pain.
I'm all in. It really was so fun to speak with you. So
yeah, you too. Thanks so much for spending the time.
Thank you so much for having me, really.
Well, that was awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time to invest in your health and well-being. Since this podcast is brand new, reviews and subscribers are so vital for us to get off the ground and share this really important information. So if you found this information valuable, please post a review and subscribe to the podcast so you'll get our newest episodes. Also, if you know of someone who would benefit from this, please share it with them. You can also find us on Instagram at #InspireHealthPodcast. If you have a question that you'd like to be addressed, direct message me on Instagram or leave a comment on one of my posts. I would love to hear from you. And you can grab our show notes and free resources for each episode at inspirehealthpodcast.com. So be sure to go online and check it out.